A
Thanks, everybody.
pleasure, Marcia.
So that's the end of our first Go community panel, but the amazing evening hasn't ended yet. We talked a lot about the community of Go, the language of Go, but let's talk about a project we're doing Go. So I have here live with me Jennifer, who works on Porter. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, so my name is Jennifer Davis. I do contribute to the Porter project. My day job is that I'm a developer relations manager at Google, and I manage a team that is working on serverless, and we support a number of different projects and languages, helping facilitate how people are able to do all things with serverless. So is it cool for me to just like start talking about Porter? Because Porter is exciting to me.
The virtual stage is yours. I hear you're excited. Take it away. I'll go quickly grab a drink and some snacks, and I'll just enjoy this.
Awesome. If you want to go ahead and put my screen up as well, because I'm not going to go here first, but I'm going to talk about it, and it's a good place to start. So I loved the previous session with the panelists. I wanted to go start talking a little bit about Go and how I got involved in Go myself. And I have seen for years the amazing community that is Go. And I joined the Slack, the Women Who Go, Go Bridge, and it was hard for me to find that time in my workday to learn, and I struggled. And one of the things that I learned about for myself is that having ADHD and learning new skills, it's really hard, even if you really want to and you're really interested. And I learned a new way of doing things. And so one of the things that's helped me really level up my Go learning is doing this stream with Aaron, who was in the previous panel. And we do a Let's Go stream on Mondays. And I encourage everyone. This is such a great community, so welcoming. The GopherCon is fabulous, and it's a great place to connect with more parts of the community, but it is there and available. And no matter how you learn, there are ways to learn Go. So when I was attending GopherCon, it feels like a lifetime ago, one of the people I met there was Carolyn, who is someone who's been a huge part of the Go community in terms of helping make it more inclusive, thinking about different parts. I learned about the Porter project from her. And as I started exploring it, it fits all these check boxes for me in terms of what I thought about projects and what I wanted out of a community of projects. And so I'm going to talk more about the community and how you can get involved in a little bit, but I just wanted to sort of give that path into where it came from for me. It was one part Go, one part, wow, this is a really inclusive community of folks working together on this, and one part infrastructure. So with the ops background, I am really fascinated by all things that make ops more accessible. And so one of the things I would love for everyone to do right now, as I start talking about what I think of this, but just share what you think infrastructure is. When we think about infrastructure in a computing sense, what does infrastructure look like? Okay, so for me, as an ops engineer who then has also done software engineering and has seen this progression, and then how we've gone from managed infrastructure, or like we manage it, to managed infrastructure to serverless. To me, I define infrastructure a little differently than if you look it up in a book, specifically around computing. And to me, infrastructure is that set of fundamental resources that includes the services, the software, the compute, and all of the human processes that are required for a system to function. If you take away those human processes and the infrastructure is failing to work as intended, or the impact to the customer is not what they want, that's a problem. So one of the things that's come out in these uh, last decade or so of computing is that we have this concept of infrastructure as code. And now, no criticism of anyone, because not all places have adopted it yet. Sometimes it's just too hard, not enough people enabled to take things from manual infrastructure to infrastructure as code. But when we talk about infrastructure as code, we don't think about all of those components that I defined as infrastructure, the software, the compute, and the processes. What it usually is some slice of that as an approach to automate the computing. Maybe it's provisioning, maybe it's configuring. All these different tools that are infrastructure as code will take just a part of it. So then that is like, well, how do I solve this whole problem? And then it goes back to, why am I trying to solve this problem? Well, as a human, I need things to be consistent and repeatable. I need to know that whatever I'm running will make my infrastructure match what I need. I want to see visibility into all of the changes early so that I can do code review and I can have small changes that allow me to like estimate risk better about what's happening in my system. I want to be able to define, provision, and manage those resources. And I want small projects, just like if we look at the DORA research that showed that small changes in code is part of high performing teams. I want to have small changes in code in my infrastructure projects so that I can manage that and be a high performing ops team. And I want to manage all the server sprawl. So it's not just like random servers installed for testing and the dev systems and inconsistencies across that, and eliminate all the toil around that. So think about the last time that you started at a job and people told you what the process is for getting started, or maybe they didn't tell you the process. And it started out with, okay, first you're going to git clone this particular project, and then you're going to log into this piece of infrastructure, and maybe to get that infrastructure, wait, you're going to have to go do a Terraform uh, run so that you can make sure that it provisions it. Oh, and actually, you also need Helm to deploy to the Kubernetes cluster. Oh, and we've got these bash scripts that glues everything together. And then you can log in and validate and check that everything's okay. And so when I look at that, there was this huge gap, right? There's all of these pieces that we assume that everyone knows. Maybe you have to make sure there's specific versions of each of these tools. Oh, well, I just downloaded latest and it doesn't work with our current version. And maybe there's a bunch of environment variables and different tools that I need to run. And oh, what about credentials? Do you have credentials for every single service? Okay. So I've talked a lot about these different pieces and infrastructure in general. And so what does that have to do with Porter? Right? Well, okay, not there quite yet. All of these gaps that I've talked about, these gaps in our infrastructure understanding, there's a bunch of people that came together to create the CNAB spec. And you can actually go read about the CNAB spec. It's still something in progress. They're still adding. You can contribute to this. This is actually a project. It's underneath the CNCF, and you can become part of it. The original collaboration was done by Microsoft Azure, Docker, Pivotal, Intel, and HashiCorp. So this wasn't a single company like defining this is how this needs to be. And the idea was to bundle up the infrastructure in such a way that it includes the software, the infrastructure provisioning piece, and the actual human processes, all those little scripts that you might run. And the idea being that this is the next level. It's not something that people talk of as like, this is infrastructure as code, but it creates this sort of bundle. So then what is Porter? Porter is an implementation of the CNAB spec. And now I say that because Porter is so much more. Porter is a community of people. It's Michelle, this little cat. It is all of the places that we can help and come together and contribute to making our infrastructure better. So Porter implements the CNAB spec, and it has a few different pieces to it. There's a manifest, there's mix-ins, because we're not trying to replace your Terraform or your Helm. The mix-ins are how you're going to bring in all of these other tools that you use. Porter's just the nice, helpful cat who is going to glue it all together for you, including all these processes and credentials that you might need. So the benefits is you're going to use all the tools you're already using. You abstract away all the complexities with a single command. So Porter is going to be that command. And you get the verification that you've installed from a trustworthy source because you've built all your pieces and then you've bundled it together. So let's dig in. Okay, so this is the Porter website, and this is where if you were just a general person coming in, you would see this. So we have a set of steps that tell you how to install Porter, and that's going to run you through just the basics, getting it installed. It's all Go. So if you're familiar with Go, you'll understand it. It's going to feel very familiar. And then we have a quick start guide, and it's going to walk you through how to create a new bundle. The cool thing is once you install it, if you run through this quick start with Porter Create, it's going to create this manifest file, which is the porter.yaml file. And you can actually look at it directly. This is, as with every language, we start with hello world. And it's going to help you do that hello world. So this is the Porter bundle. The mixin is going to be how I do things. So if I have the shell scripts, exec is going to be the way that I can run those shell scripts. And I can set up actions of install, which is installing the application that I want to install, upgrading the application I want to upgrade, and uninstalling the application. So it's really just straightforward sets of actions tied with what I need to do to run it. And you are more than welcome to run through this quick start as a quick way to say, yeah, this is actually a pretty cool and interesting project. The next level is actually thinking about, well, okay, I want to contribute. I don't want to just consume stuff from the project. I want to actually contribute. Well, the cool thing about Porter is we have a contributor guide. So we are really clear. What is the project about? Where can you start? Based on whatever level of experience you have, whether it's Go or something else, we have ways to help you get started. So we walk through different areas where we have contributions that would be useful. And we also walk you through how to contribute. And this is going to help you first try Porter so you can know what it should look like, and then set up your environment with all the tools that we use to build Porter so that when you make changes, you can see what they look like. Okay, so getting into the nitty-gritty. Porter is on GitHub. We have a number of issues and pull requests. It follows some of the same practices that you have in other projects. But one of the things that's really great about Porter and why I love this project is one that I recommend for folks to get started, especially if they haven't been really participating in open source before, is that it's really clear. We have contact details. We specify what we're looking for. We've got our new contributors guide, which is going to talk through expected SLAs of if you put in a pull request, how long will it take to get it looked at? If you've got an issue, what happens there? We've got a roadmap, which isn't, I really like the way that it's described, is it's not here's exactly where we're getting to, but here's the things that we're looking to, and we're not specifically saying this is happening, but this is the goal. And this makes it accessible to everyone to understand, oh, okay, here are the things that are possible based on the number of contributors. Now, one of the things that first sort of gripped me when I started looking at the Porter project was the labeling and use. Now, Carolyn is the emoji CEO, or is it CTO? I'm not sure. But she's fabulous at understanding and connecting with the humans. And so one of the things that first jumped out at me is like these labels. And the thing about it is, okay, we all can connect with food to some degree, right? And so instead of just going, this is a P0 and like has to be done, it's like, let's talk about the emergency donuts. And then let's talk about the chocolate after the emergency donuts. And then, yeah, we can all have pizza every day. And so it's like giving this order and context to how you can think about what issues there are. There's also these other ones that provide you more context if they're tagged to say, okay, like design, yeah, when we're in the design process, it's totally cool to bike shed and think about what color the bike shed should be. When it comes to docks, like here are things that we might need. Same with follow up or gaps. A good first issue. A lot of times you go to a project and it says this is a good first issue, where it's like people have totally tagged in and said this would be nice for contributors. I really like the process that is taken in this project of defining a good first issue. And I'm going to actually look at one because I feel like it's just one of those things that's just like, this is amazing. There's also, if you've got more experience, you might want to look at the help wanted. And we think about all contributors within the Porter project. We are welcoming either the casual contributor who stops by for like one-offs, or those people who want to build up and join into the community. We're also really clear, like, don't work on this one yet because this means it needs more thinking time as a community. We've got to stop and think about what's going on. So let's go ahead and look at one of these good first issue bugs. So when Carolyn or another member of the team writes out a good first issue, it's usually going to contain a lot of detail so that you can, as a person coming into the project, have the understanding of what is expected. Here is a comment where Carolyn has gone through more into the details of what is the expectation. So the goal with a good first issue is that it's really clear where do you get started and how you know what done is. A lot of times, if you look at issues in some projects, it's like, well, how do I know when I'm done with this or when I should actually submit a pull request to say, like, here it is. And then you get that back and forth. And then by the time it's really, really ready, there's some kind of conflict. This makes it much easier to get started with the project when you know what the expectations are. Another area is where, like, we have user experience issues. This is going to talk through, okay, how do we think through these different pieces? So Porter is written in Go, but there's so much more than just writing code that is a welcome contribution. Any of these issues that are open, you're more than welcome to contribute your thoughts and ideas. Also, if you see common questions coming up, if you see things, you can go through and look at the closed issues. If you see common questions, a good way to start another thing is to just create an update to the FAQ and say, like, here's the FAQ and here's the answer, the question that I see and the answer. And that is an update to the FAQ. Another piece is thinking through what are the areas of help that people might need and write a tutorial. Or if you have a blog post or any kind of content that you want to contribute. We keep track of contributors in the Porter repository, and that's another area. Once you contribute something, go ahead and add your name to the contributors list, because everyone who has donated their time and efforts to making Porter better is a contributor. We don't consider contributors just to be the people who write code. So me presenting to you today, like, this is one aspect of me contributing to this project. I hope this has been helpful in giving a little insight into what the Porter Project is trying to achieve, and a little bit of an introduction to our community. If there's any questions, I'd love to hear from you, and I hope to see you soon on the Porter in the Porter repos, or in our meetings that I have totally forgot to share, but our Porter development meetings are open for anyone to join. The next meeting will be February 24th, and they're every other Wednesday at 6 to 7 p.m. UTC.
Oh, hi, I'm back. Thank you very
Hey,
much. I'm very interested to dig more into Porter. I really love the emoji everywhere. And you contributing is also a very good idea, because GitHub doesn't always reflect the most valuable contributions, in my opinion.
it's one of the things that is just so frustrating about, like, how we talk about what contributions people make. And so it's just nice to see. One of the cool things is all the Porter assets. The Michelle is right here, and you can see different versions of the Porter
Oh.
Michelle.
Are those drawing instructions?
It is
Yeah.
so great.
Oh, nice.
So we totally need more artists in contributing to open source. This was like, I had a huge squee when we had Michelle. I was like,
Okay.
this is totally Carolyn's influence. But
So,
this is like, just sweet Porter cat.
so
But
Floor is pushing me very hard to ask you for the backstory of how Michelle came to be.
um so there was a very awesome human being named Michelle who contributed to early Porter. And so the name Michelle comes from that awesome contributor. And the cat was done, it was a collaboration with Carolyn, and the name of the person is totally slipping my mind. This person right here, Ronan. Yes, Ronan is awesome. And Ronan and Carolyn collaborated on bringing Michelle to life. Carolyn could probably tell this story much better than me.
I have a feeling if Carolyn is involved in a project, there's gonna be cats.
And beautiful emojis.
Yeah, both, both amazing things in my opinion. I also got a question. You mentioned community calls every other week. How do you come up with the agenda?
How do we come up with the agenda? That is that it comes up in the discussions. We use GitHub discussions, as well as there's a Slack channel. So if you look on the community site, there's details about the Slack, and you can just join in the Slack and come in. And that's where the calendar, the agenda gets configured or planned. But also there is a public calendar. If you go to the Porter dev site, there's a link there, but it's just part of the CNCF. They provide, Porter is a sandbox project in CNCF, and so there's a there's an open calendar. Sorry.
Are you reading the same that I'm reading? Uh,
Yeah,
so
I saw. Does Michelle
this
have a
question
SoundCloud?
comes from a organizer that firstly committed to a weekly online meetup and is looking for agenda IDs, I guess. So you know how to come up with an agenda. Just have Slack discussions, have an open document, and maybe you will catch on the weekly meetup agenda. I also have a question about Michelle again. Does Michelle have a SoundCloud?
Um, Not that I know of. I feel like Michelle needs a whole backstory now and adventures. That
Is there an illustrated children's guide to Porter coming up? I'm happy to
again,
contribute to that
We
one.
need to let Ronan and Carolyn know that there should totally be, because it's so fantastic. I mean, we got the little bundle cards here.
Yeah, I'm reading already the chat room ideas to have a Michelle shop, a Michelle swag, a college sweater. Uh, everybody loves Michelle. So I have a more serious question now. I'm sorry, everyone who wants to talk about Michelle. Maybe we should do a Michelle meetup later. What is the process for defining the Porter roadmap?
That's fantastic. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier was the Porter roadmap. It's not like uh, in a lot of projects you see this sort of the roadmap is this like vicious cycle of, I shouldn't say vicious, but it's like the whole like Scrum done bad or Agile done bad, where it's like you must do these things, and like it causes a lot of stress on people. It's more a here's the main thing to know is these are the things in progress. We've got a backlog, and then everything that we have people coming in with ideas, but we're not going to be able to, like, this is a combination of things. We don't have any sort of contributors able to work on those at this time. uh, so it's like any of these pieces can come up into the in progress, basically by people getting involved in the contributor process and us elevating them to it. So the roadmap is very much a collaborative effort, and it happens mostly on a quarterly basis, I would say, just figuring out like what's happening next, where are we going, how does this move on. The other interesting thing about how we do our roadmap is we don't erase or like move stuff off. We always just keep adding it to done. So you can see over time all the things that have happened, um, as a group, as a community, and it's more as a like let's celebrate all of these wins kind of thing. So it builds on, this is a community perspective versus just like, yes, you're going to join and start contributing, and we're going to like micromanage or just like have it's when it comes to open source projects, it very much, we want to make progress, we want to move forward, but it's also recognizing that everyone has day jobs, um, or school or family commitments, and or all of these things.
It's not always easy finding time for open source, and I'm saying it myself as somebody who does everything open source.
Yeah, I've definitely felt the feels as I've moved jobs in this last 3 months. So it's like 90 days yesterday, woo! Of like my opportunities to contribute have been greatly reduced as I've been like rebalancing time. So this is the thing that's really nice about this kind of community is, uh, you know, it's not like I don't know. It's just a very welcoming, inclusive community that recognizes all the things that we've had in the past year, as well as just changes that people have had in their own personal lives.
That sounds amazing. Floor also wants to congratulate you on your new job.
Thank you. Thank you. I love my job. I work with awesome people. I worked with awesome people before.
You're
But it's
hiring.
just it's Oh, yeah, actually, yes. I am not yet, but some of my peers are hiring, and everyone, like, I kid you not, everyone in my sphere. I know I can't speak to the whole company because no company is like a monoculture, but everyone in my sphere is just amazing. Um, uh, I've got to say it's one of the most collaborative, open, and inclusive environments from a uh, people ask questions, encourage. Like if I ask a question, people give answers. It's just been so great.
I'm sorry. Are there any more questions from the community? You can still leave them in the Discord chat. I have everything open. I have Twitter open. I have Discord open. I have a giant screen just to do these things. If you have questions, still leave them. Um, one person, what are you looking forward to with Porter? What is happening in the future that you're getting excited about?
So one of the things that happened last year is that we got adopted into CNCF, into the sandbox program. One of the things that has been really great is the additional resources that are available. So, for example, the paid Zoom for meetings, and so that we can have more public meetings because we can have more people in the meetings. And so, one of the things that I'm super excited about and seeing how it grows, because like we have values as a community, and then as people join in and contribute, your values slowly evolve and change and grow. And I want to understand how we scale and what that looks like as we get more contributors, as we get more people who are doing more than just casual contributing, what that looks like, and how we can really help change how we talk about, infrastructure as code in general, so that solutions like Porter really can help people.
That sounds great. So another question is, what are topics in open source you wish will be talked about more?
Oh, this is so fascinating. So, um, a lot of times when we talk about open source, it's about like open source licensing, or we talk about open source software, and then there's this whole thing of open source communities. And so, one of the things I would love, 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 love is if we can talk more about open source as the whole, like the ecosystem, the communities, like the people behind all of these things. And the people are not just the contributors, when we say contributors where it's code, but it's all of this. It's the design, it's architecture designs to help people understand what's happening. It's testing, and I know testing a lot of time is code, but sometimes it's just testing the ideas. Should we build the things that we're building? Um, we should be talking more about like the overall uh uh what how does this operate, what it like when we have the concept of users and customers and all of this stuff. We need to have ways to talk about how does this run in an environment. So then what does that look like? Because so much it feels like, especially in a company context, and wanting to provide, especially in like a DevRel frame of mind, we want to help people and we want to help enterprises, but we want to help people, right? And coming back to that, people is everyone. It's not just the developers. And so I really want us to talk more about all of these pieces when we talk about open source. It's not just the code, it's the people.
I can only but agree with that completely as an open source maintainer. So Flo, I want to
I have a
thank
lot of
you
those.
very much for making up the schedule for the next 10 meetups. So thank you very much for this input. Maybe you can come back and talk about the people and the designs, etc.
That would be fantastic. And we can get folks in design and um, all these different areas doing just fabulous things so we can grow the community.
I would love to know more about how to design cute mascots for my projects.
Every project needs a mascot. Like it's one of the ways that you define, yes, we care about people in this. We've thought about this and we care about people.
So, our time is running out. My clock is ticking next to me. Any very famous last words?
That feel I should have prepared something because I feel like how do you have famous last words? I guess
Non-famous
I
last words,
guess
usual last words. Any last words?
I'm gonna borrow from Jordan Cecil, and I'm gonna say that uh, one of the things that he said is context specific, but just in general, this isn't his exact words, was around if people are having problems with the software, then it's a bug. And so often in especially in these times where we can it can everything can feel overwhelming. And I want to encourage that no matter what, um, when people are having problems, it's a bug. It's okay to share that. Like, not all uh, contributing projects or projects you can contribute to are going to have that philosophy. But if you're having problems with something with Porter or any project, you should feel welcome and encouraged to share that and not feel like you're like making a mistake. So I just want to say, like, if you're a open source project contributor or maintainer, think about it from that perspective, and let's be a little more empathetic to everyone.
Those are famous last words and very amazing last words. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Jennifer, for this amazing introduction to Porter. I think we are all excited about Michelle and also the project itself, of course. I also need to plug some meetup for next week. This time, if you are available, you might want to drop in for yet another amazing language, which is this time not Go, but TypeScript. If you're very interested in learning about TypeScript, join us at the same time, same place next week. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and I hope to see you all in the community again soon.